People over paper. Episode 4. You know what it is. It's been a few weeks since we first came on at the top of the year. I've been sick, so I'm happy to be on with you guys.
Man,
Today,
man.
we'll be talking about supply and demand and
Sprinkle of Black History Month.
a sprinkle of Black History Month, yes. And Caleb buying a house.
Gentrification, housing.
All right, let's get
Got
into
it
it.
all. Come on, man. Good intro right there.
Hey, CK, are y'all doing anything with through Soul this month for like Black History?
Last year, Black History Month, we did a speaker series. We had like 5 different speakers, one judge, Dr. Henderson from OU. Everybody that went to OU did athletics knows who Dr. Henderson is. He's a legend. Who else do we have up there? We had JB. I think it's JB though, the singer artist from OKC, real big in activism and speaking for the culture. But we usually do a soul food cookout in
I remember
February.
that. That was with Off the Hook, wasn't it?
Yeah, with Off the Hook and a couple other vendors too. So yeah, so we get into the Black culture, and there's a lot of African American athletes on the team and at OU, and so it's good for them to get a little moment to just remember the people that came before them. And then our big Unity jerseys that we all had our hand in.
Right.
Unity jerseys representing Prentice Gott, and the first African-American scholarship football athlete at the University of Oklahoma. And so getting those jerseys out and me finishing the mission while y'all went on and did your things, getting that done, man, that's a good thing to reflect on too. But Black History Month, it's a funny and annoying at the same time that it's the shortest month of the year, but we'll take whatever we can get, you know.
Of course, they gave us the shortest month of the year.
Look at you looking like with Maddie and Keelan in the background, looking like you,
I know,
a big uncle.
I forgot that was behind me. They get free promo. Yeah, I'm still every time I see Joe C, I'm like, bro, like, can I get the jersey that I helped design, please?
I talked to Joe C. I talked to Witt. They have them. I'm like,
I know.
why are you holding on to it? I'm like, I'll be here every day. Give me the jersey.
At least you took a photo shoot with
right
it.
there. It's gonna be right in the front, right here. Just bow.
I need the photo shoot. I mean, I need the jersey and the helmet.
And the helmet gonna run you $500.
Yeah, I ain't gonna cap. That helmet gonna run you about $5,000.
And we know Mr. McKenzie over there. He ain't worried about 500 though. Talking about he just bought a whole new appliances and got a brand new couch, furniture. And
Right. Same thing you just did though.
Yeah. You just got a house.
Right. I got an apartment. You got a house.
I have a partner to help me out too, though. You know.
Nah, that is true.
I'm not doing it by myself.
You bought a crib at what, 2024?
Yeah. Hey, it's my birthday next month.
That is
so
true.
You know, but we're gonna stay in February. So what's up, man? Black History Month. Pat, question for you. You got all the history and the knowledge in the head, and you know, you Mr. Tulsa, you big on Tulsa Race Massacre, Tulsa Race riots, and all the knowledge you've done back there. So talk about what you've done in Tulsa to represent your Black culture.
Shucks, I think the biggest thing I did was first, starting with learning from the Tulsa Race Massacre, like what made the city of Tulsa so successful. And, you see a group of people who are highly educated, not just in, formal education, but trades, welding, plumbing, so forth and so on. And then you seen like strong, like the church was very big in the Black culture at that time. So that's where people were getting their morality, their ethics, and everything that they were coming from. So basically, I started out with studying that and then getting into doing a lot of stuff centered around education. I did like a little back to school bash, gave away a couple of iPads to some kids at an inner city elementary school, gave some gift cards away so, kids could get school clothes. And then like last year did like a big event around Juneteenth that, my partner in Atlanta Wolf, we were able to raise 50,000 and we were able to, bring somebody in from Langston, the HBCU, to kind of educate people on what it looks like applying for colleges, as well as like the financial resources that you have. Because a lot of times, people look at finance as a barrier, but it's like, if you have a 3.2 GPA, 3.5 GPA, at Langston, there's enough scholarships to go around to dang near get you a full ride. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, just with people having that information, you can go to college, get a degree. So did like a lot of stuff around that, financial literacy seminar, and then just, coming back to the crib, showing love, we did like a little community kickball game. And then we did other things trying to, support health and wellness, talking about mental health, yoga, how to eat properly, dieting. So really just trying to go all in on like the educational side of things. And then, cause I think sometimes as Black people, I think lately we've talked a lot about the stuff that we had to go through, like the oppression. And sometimes I think we can complement it with talking about what made us so successful and how to recreate those things in our communities, and just, being more positive and optimistic about things. Like there is a reality of, the systems that it is that we go through, but I think we can focus more on the light as opposed to the darkness. And I think that's kind of, what we're trying to do. Talk about the light. We know that the darkness exists, not to act like it isn't there, but just, try to bring positivity. And I think the same way all of us was trained to show up to football even though we was going to get our butt whooped, with the workout, smile on our face, just ready to attack the day. So
definitely
that makes sense.
I
admire you being able to go back.
What are you saying?
Oh, I was just going to talk about Pat and the work that he does going back to his school. Like I admire that so much, because I always wanted something like that for my school, for my high school, but I'm so far away, so I never like took the time to think it through or to even try, because I'm like, well, I'm all the way out here, so I don't know. So when I see Pat talk about his stuff and the success that he's had visiting his school and things like that, I admire that.
I just look at
I appreciate it.
I remember when Pat first thought of it, he came up to me in the locker room, was like, man, I want to do something like to give back to the community back home, and I want to give a scholarship, and I want to do like a little backpack thing. And then seeing it come to fruition with all the different NFL players and all the different college players from Tulsa coming back and being there to support your cause and support your vision to make it all come to life, man, it's powerful, because it's like we always talk about, you create a vision, you set a goal, you find that process and those steps to get to that goal, and you make it happen. And as a young man, Pat did that and did it for something that wasn't just about him. Like we talk about God too. We talk about how we are here to serve. Like it wasn't for Pat's name. Like it was to go give back to the young Pat before Pat was ever Patrick Fields. Like that little kid that wanted to play football at OU one day, or wanted to go to the league, or wanted to make a lot of money, or make his situation better. And so, yeah, I admire the hell out of you for that, bro, because I remember we were sitting there in the locker room, walked by you, said, bro, I want to come do this. And I was like, go do it. Like, you got the resources, you got the people. Next thing you know, you start hitting people up, and boom, boom, things just fall into place, and God just kind of guides it. So, yeah, big kudos to you on that.
How did you go about the scholarship?
Man, so right now, I got pushed back on that, because whenever I went out to Stanford, because what I'm trying to do is set up an endowment. That way, it's a long-term thing. Because I could give away, raise money and give away $25,000, in a year. But it's like you have to keep on raising that $25,000 as opposed to the endowment. It'll work for you and it'll be indefinite. So working on that. Last year, I got because I went out to Stanford, I just wasn't physically in Oklahoma. So you have to like go through all the compliance processes of it. You got to get it approved, all the legal paperwork and all that stuff. So I'm hoping to get that up and going and then you have to launch it, fundraise, and all that stuff. So I'm hoping to get that up and going this year. But yeah, because the biggest thing is I want to create something that's long term, and I think
Yeah.
that's long term change and create a system of change. That way, it's indefinite and it's not just short term or in the immediate future.
Mm-hmm. The way I've always wanted to do something similar, but much like you, it has to be long term. Like I remember
Right.
thinking, I was like, oh, I could do a scholarship now. Like I can just go get $500, but then you have to do that every single year, and eventually I want to turn 500 into 5 grand, 5 grand into 50. And the way I thought about it personally was just to play a long term game, was to run something through my future fund. So that way I could raise money through my fund for the school, and then just use my fund to continuously give back to the school. So that way it's a tax write off on me.
That's smart.
But then I'm also giving back to the school. So that's how I envisioned it. Like I wrote it down on paper. I was like, this is what I want to do one day.
Man, that's really smart. And I think us, a lot of people from like lower income communities, we may not be as privy on like the opportunities that exist out there, such as like the investment fund that you can put towards your child's education. So you get taxed on the principal money that goes into it, but you don't get taxed on any of the gains. So if you
Right.
put 10,000 and that, through compound interest reaches 120 or whatever the case is in the 18 years, you don't get taxed on any of those gains. And just something as simple as that, even if you just do the math, contributing $250 to it a month, or you can go smaller or bigger. By the time your child turns 18, you have all their education paid for.
Mhm.
And I think just a lot of that stuff, we got to have the information to and the access to. And that's along the lines of what we're talking about. But that's something, I'm getting big into right now, trying to set that up for my cousin. She's in 5th grade. And so by the time she's 18, she has, money to go to school. And then the dope thing about it as well is, should you have a child who says like, I don't want to go the education route, I want to go into a trade or whatever else, that money now rolls over into a Roth IRA for them. And that's just a new policy that I believe was passed this January of this year. So either way, if they don't use it for education, they're going to be starting substantially ahead in life with already having a Roth IRA for them at 18 that's going to compound over, their working career. So
That's a federal policy, like nationally.
yeah. It just went into place like January. So not even a full month ago.
You hear that, Papa Kelly?
And so you're saying like your money saved up for college, like a college fund account like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like my granddad has a college fund account for me that
Right.
I ain't tapped into. I could just turn it into a Roth IRA.
Yeah, I believe I got to look at that's the way
I'm gonna go through that next
understood it.
week.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't touched that money. Like, hold on.
Yeah, you can just roll it over into a Roth IRA. That's the way I read it. It may be like some other qualifications, like you have to be this age or do it within this window of time or whatever the case is. But it just went into place this January. So
That's cool.
Or I just read about it this January.
I remember I remember reading about it. And then the limit went up to like 6,500 a month, like 6,500 as opposed to 6,000. Like you could put more in them per year.
Yeah. Cause man, like just it's you learn it, but a lot of people talk about compound interest, but like whenever you look at the calculator on it and like how simple it is, and like I think a lot of times we say stuff is simple, which in thought it is simple, but it's hard to do in practice because it takes a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
But just putting that money back or whatever the case is, like it does a dramatic effect for you. I was reading something in a book this week. It was called The Richest Man in Babylon. And he was saying, you read it too?
Yeah. First, when I started reading, like that was one of the first ones.
Yeah. That's a really good book because, I don't know if you remember, but he was talking about people's necessary expenses. And what you find is people's necessary expenses always increase with their income unless you fight the nudge of it. Yeah. So meaning the more people make, they just have lifestyle inflation. Now they start buying, nicer brand products or whatever the case is. and their necessary expenses keep on going, as opposed to continuing to be frugal and, investing that money, putting that money back into savings, and then letting it work for you. And then that was something dope that I thought. And then him talking about making, money, money your slave. I think that's an interesting way to think about it. Look at money as your slave, as opposed to us being a slave to money, which is, I think, how a lot of us think.
No, yeah, I applied that rule. The 70, because it's 70, 20, 10 in there. They do 70%, 20%, 10%. A lot of people do the 50, 30, 20% rule, and having this big old house payment every month. And because salary is only $80K for me, so after taxes, it's $5K a month. It's all state. Everybody knows it. So, it's all public. But so every month you divvy up 70% is $3,500, but then my mortgage is $2,200. So then you have to live off the rest of it, and you're supposed to put up 20%. So 20% is what, 1,000, and so if I put 1,000 up, then I only got 500 to spend on. And I ain't living like to it right now. Like, it's hard to do that just because 5,000, you think it's a lot when I was living off of 1,500 being a student athlete. Yeah. But then you add on a fiance and a kid and a house payment, like opposed to rent, because my rent was $450. Like, it's like, dang. And then on top of that, 500 in bills. It's just like my expenses that are actually necessities. Like, I'm literally at 2,700 of house and utilities like that. And so putting up 1,000 a month to pay off debts or to put into your savings, like right now I'm only putting up the 500. I switched it. I put 70, 10, and then the extra expense is my 20. And so I'm only putting up 500 a month right now, which I'm trying to work back down. But exactly what it says in the book, like, happened to me. Like, boom, buy a house right away. Like, you make more money, boom, buy a house. Now, what you are used to paying is $400 a month. Now it's $2,100 or $2,200 a month. And so it works exactly like that. And there's different ways. And speaking of housing, and I'm not the guru on it, but living in it too, I would much rather have gone, and I told my fiance this too, I would much rather have gone and bought a duplex, lived out one side, and had the other person rent out the other side. And so if you haven't bought a house, definitely recommend that for your first house, because then after 2 years, like, we'll either go buy another house just for rent, or we're going to just rent this house out and then have them pay for it. And so our goal is to continue to buy housing, continue to buy land, buy real estate, buy equity and units. But if I was to do it over again, I would do that duplex, and to actually, and I'm trying to get back to it, but it's hard once you beat it. Like, once you don't follow the rule of the 70, 20, 10, it's hard to get back into it. And so while you're starting it, while you're first making different kind of money, to continue to live the same way you are and act like you're not making any extra money, that can take you so far. And something that already I wish I would have done. And I love my house. I love the opportunity, but it's hard to change back to the old ways when you're living a different lifestyle.
I
think to that point though, my fault. I'll let you go, J-Hall.
I was going to say, I remember when I first got to college, and I was like trying to get into money, and Robinhood, Cash App had just started with stocks and everything, and Robinhood had just came out and all that type of stuff. And I remember Acorns came out, and I was like, man, I don't really have much to contribute to this. I think this is back when we was getting paid like $500 a month, and then like the weekend checks or something like that. Yeah. And bro, like I just started with like, I don't know, a few cents, like $10 a week. And then I was like, you know what, let me put a little bit more. Like, I saw the S&P go up, and I was like, oh, I made like, I don't know, $10, $20 or whatever. And I was like, let me add a little bit more. And then $10 a week turned into 25. And then I was like, yeah, I'm add a little bit more. So then 25 turned into 100. And then we started the master's program, and then, once you start your master's, you get paid like, what was it, like 21 or 1,800 a month or something like that?
18, not 21.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish it was 21. But I say that to say, bro, over just from my college checks, bro, and just like extra money that I ended like bowl money we got, bro. Like I ended up saving like 9 to 10K over what 4 years, I think 4 years,
Yeah.
10K, and it was all in an investment account, and I haven't touched it. Like it's just sitting there, and I look back, I look at it now I'm like, I'm unemployed, I'm living with somebody else, but I still have it just in case I ever want to go get an apartment, grab a job, something like that. And I'm just like, man, like, now imagine doing that on a bigger scale.
Right.
If
you were, instead of putting that 100, you put that rack in there, 1,000, 10K, like, man.
Yeah. So I say all that to say, like, that's my, like, it started off super small for me. And like to not do it anymore is just, it kind of bothers me because I don't really have like a consistent source of income right now. But like, don't stop. I say all that to say, don't stop. Like it's a real thing, even when you start small. Pat, what were you gonna say though?
I was gonna say, CK, to your point with buying like a crib instead of a duplex. Like the house you bought is probably going to appraise more in value than like a duplex is. Like a duplex may be more affordable, and you may be able to cash flow off of it, but like the property value of your house may appraise significantly more than like your duplex. So it's kind of just like a double-edged sword. Like it's like trade-offs.
Like you can't really lose, but like to come straight out, one is more affordable, like you said.
Yeah, true.
And so that's why it's like I jumped in it, which is that's how a lot of people become successful. They just jump in the deep end and make it work. And we're making it work. Like I'm not hurting. Like I still can get a couple things for myself every month. But if I was to look back and be like, what probably would have been more affordable, like you're saying, would be to do the other way, then save up for a couple years and then do like the big house. Like we're in the house that we could live in and for like a decade if we wanted to. Like this isn't a small house at all. Like I have an office. I could turn it into a bedroom if we have another kid. Like that's just a reality. But coming straight out of it, if I like the smartest way would be doing that duplex. So then you're saving your money and everything's going into something you own as opposed to an apartment. But the price that you're paying is not $2,100. It's still like the price of an apartment because you got somebody else paying too.
So what I just heard is that we got a C. Kelly Jr. in the mix.
No, sir.
Possibly on the way. Okay, because you said turn your office into a bed. You said that real smooth.
I just got this up. What you mean?
Yeah, I know.
It's like the second podcast with this up. Like,
hey, look, bro. All I'm saying is that you said that real quick. So I'm like, oh, you must have thought about this one.
No, sir. I got personally, if I'm choosing, I got like 4 or 5 years before I have another kid. I'm like, I'm not even getting married this year. I'm getting married next year sometime. So, yeah, I'm trying to do some things right, some things in order.
Yeah. Larson must not be around. She's like, what?
Nah,
does she want to have another one though?
Yeah, eventually, no time soon. We on the same page with that, dog. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We letting Swade live his best life.
Yes, he's spoiled.
Yeah.
That's how it should be though.
Yeah, that's the goal. You make him happy,
Hey, I do got a question though, since we're talking about real estate, Black History Month. What are our thoughts on gentrification, right? And the only reason I ask is that it's a big thing right now, like major cities. You think of like Dallas, New York has a housing crisis because like their rent is so high. Charlotte, where I'm from, is like one of the top 5 fastest growing cities in the country. And what you see now is major companies, specifically private equity, big time firms, Pat, they're raising a whole bunch of money and just going in and just buying a stupid number of houses in a neighborhood in bulk, right? And then they're all redoing them, building the equity in the houses and selling them for an outrageous number. And you see that going on in a lot of not just, Black neighborhoods, but just minority neighborhoods in general. And it's a great idea in terms of making money. Like it's not anything
Right.
that we don't want to do, or the individual, what you just said, Caleb, in terms of buying more property. They're just doing it on a bigger scale. So what do y'all
Huge
think
scale.
about that? Because people aren't able to afford the property taxes. They're moving on out. And
I think to the point of that, like right now, like the housing market is like super inflated. So I don't think like right now it's like the greatest picture of what things are.
Mhm.
And then like sometimes like capitalism is a giant, but I think for the most part, free markets tend to create better prices for things, letting them operate in a free market as opposed to things being controlled and price regulated. Because if you study like the economic history of affordable housing plans, what you tend to see is the affordable housing plans haven't turned out well in creating the affordable prices. They've actually done the opposite in most studies that I've seen, at least to my knowledge. Because what happens is whenever you come in with rent control and you set prices at fixed amounts, then that isn't able to adjust for inflation, adjust for other things, and then you lower the profit margin of landowners or what
Mhm.
landlords, my fault. And then you lower the profit of the landlords, and then it's like people are less incentivized because they have less profit to build and construct new housing.
Mhm.
So because the supply of housing is smaller because people aren't as
Raises
incentivized to
price.
construct new housing. There's less supply and more demand, which is going to drive up the prices. And then it gets more complex than that. But I ain't going to get into all that for the purpose of the convo. But I think it is a good thing. And I think as opposed with gentrification, sometimes I think the biggest thing is we have to look at what happens with the displacement of the people. I think gentrification is a good thing in the sense of making the city newer, getting newer buildings, so forth and so on. So, reconstructing new housing and still allocating a certain percentage of it to Section 8 housing or so forth and so on. So you're creating the city looks better from a physical standpoint,
Mhm.
but you're not displacing the people like that. And Shaq, I heard him talk about it in an interview a couple of weeks ago, and he was saying that he's getting into the gentrification part of things. So I do think it's a good thing, done right. But I think sometimes we look at things just like the evils and everything, and I don't know if that's like the greatest picture, because you can paint anything
Yeah.
to be like the most evil thing in the world.
Yeah, it's more, to me, it's what is your purpose behind it? Like in the simplest terms of what Pat's saying, like, are the banks solely doing it to make money? I mean, probably. So like in that case, you could say, oh, gentrification is bad because they don't care about the displacement. They don't care about what happens to the people that live there. But on the business side of things for them, then it raises the property value and it raises the value of all the other homes around it. And it makes the people that already live in the next neighborhood over that doesn't have all the poverty, doesn't have all the Section 8 housing, like the ones that are already living in the houses that have been rebuilt in the next neighborhood. Now their prices go up because, oh, it's a safer community, so then it raises wealth for the wealthy that already are living in those houses that can afford the better neighborhoods. But then when you go back to the purpose behind it, and I like that point that Pat says, like Shaq getting into it, like he's doing it. He's a guy who didn't come from a lot. Like I'm pretty sure he came from Louisiana. I know he went to LSU or something, but he's used to seeing it and seeing. And in my opinion and my assumption and idea is that if you make it so that there are no more Section 8 housing, like the displacement of people is going to bring down the prices because everybody has the same thing at some point. Like what is a giant house and what is more expensive now has to have 5 beds and like 4 baths opposed to the common 3-bed, 2-bath house. Like that's kind of like the average house size. So if they're all Section 8 housing is now 3-bed, 2-bath, then that brings the price down to that. So it can harm the people that do own homes at that size, but then it also gives them the opportunity to sell what they have and go get something bigger. And so it's kind of, I don't know, it's like inflation in general is it's always up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
But my opinion on it is it's the purpose behind why you're doing it, and that's the only opinion, and your purpose could change at any moment. So you can't really, like, there's lots of holes to punch in that.
Yeah, I'm with Pat. I'm all for a free market. Like I honestly, I think that's what makes America so great. Because although capitalism, it sounds bad in the grand scheme of things, but at the same time, capitalism has done more for society than a government controlled society. Like you think about, let's just say for example, Amazon, right? For example, right, billion dollar industry, and you would think that Jeff Bezos is an evil dude because he takes most of the money or whatever. He spends it, lives a lavish lifestyle. But at the same time, you think about all the jobs he's created, all the new inventions he's created, the access. Like the government isn't doing that. Like what since when has the White House ever announced new technology that they're making for the people?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like all they care about is votes, taxes, and like which
Control.
we need. Yeah, exactly. Controlling things, roads. Yeah, like all right, that's cool. But like the person who even invented roads, capitalistic society, now selling that off. You know what I'm saying? So I'm all for.
I think the reality is that this world is like a eat or be eaten world.
Yeah.
And if you're winning because you're the one doing it, like you can't fault the person for going and winning. And so that's why I think it's not bad, because Shaq earned his money how he saw fit and how he could. And so now he has the opportunity to go and make more houses. Like I'm saying, I want to buy him more houses. I want to do it. He's just doing it at a bigger scale. Like there's no fault in that for me.
Mm-hmm. One thing I saw,
and I think sometimes. Oh, what was you gonna say, y'all?
Oh, you got it, Pat.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think sometimes as people we look at the intentions of things as opposed to the results of what it creates. So like sometimes things at a round table and in theory may sound like better than how they actually are in practice. And I think oftentimes like we're fooled by it, because I'm a bit like, y'all know, I study like a lot of economics, and I'm a fan of like free markets. But like somebody may say, well, actually, no, I don't think I want to get into this on a public conversation. But I think as people, we should study the results that things create as opposed to the intentions of what they're supposed to create. And like the example I gave earlier was affordable housing. There was a lot of policies that had great intentions, but we have to evaluate them on the results that they create as opposed to the intentions that they were created with. Because no matter how good the intentions were, the results are what we live with. And I think we should just apply
like
that.
You're saying like on the like the purpose, how I'm saying the purpose, like it doesn't really matter the purpose of why the person is doing it. It's just the results of what happens if the person does that act.
Yeah, I mean, I think
which that makes sense.
Yeah, it's hard, and obviously, like somebody could go turn that into an extreme example and say like, oh, like you don't care if people do this or do that. And it's like that's not what I'm saying, but we have to just evaluate the outcomes that are created, and if the outcomes align with what we're trying to create as a society, then let's adopt it, and if they don't, then let's not adopt it. And then also we have to evaluate the trade-offs between two different things, because a lot of times we treat things as if there's a solution, and I don't think there's ever any solutions. There's only trade-offs. So if you want to create a country, you look at economic systems and structures, you can say a free market and the pros and cons and the trade-offs of it, as opposed to socialism or Marxism or communism and whatever it is that aligns with what you want to create, adopt that. And I think sometimes we can say, for example, if I'm in a communist society, like I can say I hate this or whatever, but it's like, okay, if this is better trade-offs for us than something else, then it is what it is. And that's not me endorsing communism, but using an example of the US, if we say we hate a free market and we hate this, you have to evaluate what are the trade-offs. So let's look at how things look under socialism or Marxism, and let's study the history of it and what it's created. And if we think the history of it is aligns with what we want to do, then adopt it. But I think we should just look at the trade-offs as opposed to just saying, oh, this is so evil, this is so bad. We should just evaluate. We should just live in.
And that's what cancel culture is right now. Like it's like, oh, I don't like how something makes me feel. Like it's a lot of emotions. Like a lot of cancel culture is I don't like that. So like I don't support it and I'm closed-minded to it. And I feel like we're called to be the opposite in a lot of ways. Like you, like even right now, you just basically went against what I said on the purpose of it. But I'm like, honestly, that makes sense. Like my open mind isn't, man, you trying to fight me. It's no, what you're saying. Actually, that does make sense because emotions don't create results. Like results create results. And so what happens is it's something that's tangible that you can see. And so the purpose is not tangible. And so like, I guess emotionally you could say the purpose matters, but then like tangibly in life and actually seeing how things in results, how things actually happen, you can actually see those. And so that's why I don't really like the cancel culture of things and how that works.
Yeah, man. That's why I tread softly whenever I talk about stuff, man.
Right.
I was talking to somebody about that this week, and I'm not a fan of the cancel culture thing either. Like, you did something 60 years ago, and now you're not allowed to step foot outside because of whatever, or what, 10 years ago. But, you know, people always, well, I'm not going to say always, but I'm a big fan of playing devil's advocate. Like, I remember in, I think it was like 10th grade, 10th or 11th grade, or sometime in high school, bro. It was when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were running for president. And I remember at the time, the teacher, you know, it was a debate. Like it was an exercise in the class. Most of the class wanted to go for Hillary. And I was like, forget it. Like I'll go for Mr. Trump. And for me, like I'm a person, I love to see both sides, like whether I'm right or wrong or whether, you know, one makes sense more than the other. Like, let's just talk about it, you know? And I feel like nowadays, especially on social media, people feel a certain way, and then there's like either you agree with me or you're attacking me, and there is no constructive conversation going on. Like you can't,
like
you
Trump
can't
isn't even allowed on social media anymore. Like damn, he's just a person. like,
bro, since when are we so far gone that we can't at least hear each other out? You know,
right?
Like,
and I think what we have to be like very, very careful of is like ideological conformity on both sides, because like you increase polarization whenever you say it's like either you agree with me or like you're attacking me or you're anti this or you're phobic this or whatever the case. And I think we just have to be very, very careful of creating ideological conformity. And I think, like I said, we just have to evaluate things as like as trade-offs. Like if you want to say because, you know, somebody doesn't respect or supports this, that they're anti this or whatever the case is, like if you think that that's better for society in the sense of like it being polarized and extreme opposites and like, you know, go with it. But I think we just have to evaluate things deeper than what we do. And we have to be more intentional with that, because I don't think we understand some of the monsters that we're creating in our society by the way we're grown to do things socially and emotionally and so forth. Even I don't know. I can
even with the simplest term of that is like labeling. Like we just label, and you either stick to it or completely against that label, and we just don't hear each other out. Like J Hall saying, like Pat saying, like once people get focused and once people get stuck on whatever it is that they've proclaimed to believe or whatever it is they proclaimed is right, they're too wrapped up in it to even hear the other side and potentially change their own views on things.
Yeah. Right. Like one thing, for example, like Pat was talking about.
I said people are afraid to be wrong.
Oh, my bad. I thought my mic was messed up. But no, you're right. Like everybody wants to be wrong or be right. But it's like on one hand, like Pat, when you said look at the results rather than the intentions, right? Well, for example, we were talking about gentrification, right? And for those people who aren't for gentrification, right? So let's let's look at the opposite of that. Like your city stays in the old, it doesn't, it's not renovated.
But people have houses.
But people have houses, yes.
Affordable houses.
Affordable housing. Everything stays the same, which naturally doesn't happen. Or let's just say another perspective, right? Let's relocate these people. Let's make more affordable housing, right? Okay, so that's leaning towards what is it? What's the opposite of democracy? Well, not the opposite of democracy, but like when everybody has the same thing. Was it like socialism?
Socialism.
Yes. Okay. Socialism practices make for higher taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody has to pay for all this Section 8. Like if you want to take care of them, then the rest of us have to take care of them. Are we for higher taxes? Do you want less money that you can go use in a market that naturally rises over time due to inflation and all types of other stuff? It's like looking at both sides of things. And, I feel like for example, like we could get canceled just by saying like gentrification is good,
Yeah. But I've also seen on the affordable housing side, like very common right now, or I don't know if it's very common, but I've seen
the tiny homes,
the housing, like the townhomes. Yeah. Black, black owned townhomes that everybody's trying to do in their own neighborhoods and their own origins. I think that's just a cool thing that's happening, but it takes somebody with money to build those homes. And
right, true.
It's the same thing, and it's affordable because they're townhomes, which are not as desirable in the market. But I mean, somebody's bringing in that money somewhere, and so like the point of taxes with socialism, I mean, makes sense to me. I'm not stating my view. I'm just saying both sides.
But I think we also have to understand like the short and like long-term goals of things. And like we also have to understand like economically what things will produce. So like from a price standpoint, you're at a price equilibrium when supply and demand intersect. So whenever one is out of the balance, whenever there's more supply than there's demand, then prices are going to be lower, as opposed to if there's lower supply, then if there's more demand than there is supply. So whenever we think about things like plans for things and intentions or whatever the case is, if we want something to be affordable, there has to be more competition and more supply of it.
Yeah.
And I think so and there's byproducts of what things are. Like in capitalism, for example, we have a lot of affordable food right now. We have global supply and
eggs chain
issues
up.
and inflation. Yeah. But generally though, in capitalism, we have affordable food. Because you have a number of grocery stores, you have a number of suppliers and so forth. Now, a byproduct of that is like we do have more genetically modified foods with processed things in them.
So they got to have their come up, whether it's, this food will last longer in the fridge, or, this food will have additives in there that make you stronger, make you bigger, make you faster, whatever.
Right. And I think like we have to evaluate things as the trade-offs that it's created. It's like capitalism, it's good that we have an abundant supply of food for the most part. And we have access to it. But a thing that you may not like is we have more genetically modified food, so forth and so on.
Give and take.
Yeah. And it's like, we can't look at things as if there's like a perfect solution. But why I bring up that conversation whenever it comes to housing, I think like we have to increase more housing and we have to increase the supply of housing to make things more affordable, for things to balance. And that looks a number of different ways, but we have to incentivize competition in the real estate market, competition with new development, so forth and so on, to drive prices down on housing. Now, if you have monopolies or whatever the case is, then you have less control over those markets and so forth and so on. But we need more competition, more construction, more building to lower the price of housing. And that's just putting into economically how you would evaluate things in a classroom. Now, if you don't agree with that, then I think we have to we have to
But-
look at economics.
because there's everybody's affected to whatever they think is. So like you want more affordable housing, people want to conserve land too.
Yeah.
So like you might want to build on somebody's land and they're like, no, I want to keep that is the way it is. And so everybody's affected in different ways. Everybody has their opinions and they'll never come to a complete agreement. But I think the main point is that you have to be able to weigh those options and choose for the larger in capitalism, like what's the greater good. And so that's where it can be tricky because everybody has their own individual opinions and everybody has their own their own ways that they are affected. But for the people at the top that are making those decisions, the people that have the money to go buy homes, it's like for them, which they're going to think in their individual opinion as well, let me go get my money. Let me go own these houses. Let me go make this place look better because that's what I want. And really, that's when it comes back to the people with the money have the power, and people that don't are just kind of riding on their coattails, trying to figure it out.
And I think we got to realize as well, like a free market is complex because in the U.S. we have like 330 million people.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the market, you have 330 million people operating as decision makers. Now, obviously, not all 330 million are like actively buying maybe this particular industry sector, whatever the case is. But if we think something is overpriced, not affordable, whatever the case is, and we don't buy it, business owners then have to choose to change their business plan.
Yeah.
So it's like if I offer a luxury good and I know, okay, these group of people won't buy it, then like, okay, yeah, then I can keep on operating. But if I want to make something that is able to sell to society at large, it has to be affordable by society at large.
Mm-hmm.
And if the people in the market don't buy it, then you'll go out of business. So I think like, we are decision makers in the market. Now that obviously there are like luxury goods and all the different goods that you could name, necessities, whatever the case is, but like we are decision makers in the market. And I think we have to remember that because housing prices have fallen for 11 straight months. Mm-hmm. So what that says is the people in the market do not value the prices at the homes that they're currently listed for sale. Mm-hmm. And they've fallen 11 straight months. And I think they'll continue to fall until they reach a point where people in the market think it's a reasonable price to buy it.
Yeah.
Look at that. The beauty of America.
And then once people start buying it, then the price is going to continue to go up and then it just flips. So
supply and demand.
It's just going to continue to go back and forth.
That should be the title of the episode, supply and demand.
I think right now the stuff is like very, very different, and it's not like how things happen normally because you have global supply chain issues, you have shortages of goods.
Yeah,
we're battling like a lot of different things, so there's like a lot more volatility than normal. And then also we have to look at the impacts of the policies that we laid out in COVID and how those impact things, interest rates. So
wars.
I don't think it's normal right now.
Yeah.
Honestly, bro, like I'm gonna say this. I don't think we'll ever get back. I don't think there's like a quote unquote normal. Like I think this is just life moving forward. Because I look at the markets every single
it are going to be successful.
Yeah.
Those that can't won't be.
Yeah. Yeah, like I look at the markets every single day, bro, and you think that like, oh, like when things go back to this, then things will be this, or when things do that, then things will be this. Honestly, bro, there's never a perfect time. Like it's either just now,
right,
or just now.
Because you'll never know whether that's a good time or not until 5 years, 10 years later.
Yeah, like when I'm trading, right, every day, like. You hear guys say that, oh, like the markets, like I call people and I say, hey, like, what do you think of my idea? Like, I want to do this. And they say, well, 20 years ago, you used to be able to do that or whatever. Or 10 years ago, used to be even 2008 when you had that housing crash or whatever. And I'm like, well, that doesn't help me now. Like in my mind, I'm like, now is the best time because it's the time that it's the only
time that's guaranteed as well.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm all for development. I'm all for the future and that. Maybe we'll look back 20 years from now and be like, dang, I probably wish I would have bought a house then.
Right. And I did.
Hey, hey, look, there you go. See, Kelly. Hey, before we wrap up though, like y'all my beard coming in.
Hey,
Like
I'm
I
proud.
remember
Yeah, it's good.
last time we were on, it was looking rough.
Yeah, y'all know CK State crispy. Yeah.
Man, I need to get a chop.
Pat, your beard's always. I don't even.
Yeah.
I
Master
never see the
Splinter over
haircut.
there, man. He the Black
I
Master
know,
Splinter.
man. I know. I maybe I should just cut it off.
Nah, you don't
nah.
need to do that. Though
Don't
you
do that.
might trim it, but
Trust me, I did that, man. That ain't it.
that wasn't the goal.
That ain't it.
Yeah, bro. Women start calling you a baby, and you just like, why are you degrading me? Like, bro, something must be going on. Both my parents done called me within the past 5 minutes.
Well, let's wrap this thing up then.
Hey,
People
man,
over
ain't-
I
paper.
think- my fault. I think
volume.
what I was just gonna say at the end, all of us as people, we need to have more constructive conversations like this. Disagree, agree to disagree, get more educated, hear more viewpoints.
Don't have to always make a decision and right then and there either. Like
yeah,
you can research, you can have a couple conversations before you say, yeah, I think this is what is the best. You don't ever make decisions like that when it comes to money and things like that. So be open minded. That's what I say.
People Over Paper, episode 4.
Something. We here though. Black History Month. OPM, baby.
OPM, Black History Month. We're out.